In reality, if you want a real gaming PC, you're usually looking at spending a few $100s, or even a few thousand. And yeah, that's not exactly cheap, especially right now when PC part prices are going absolutely crazy. So today, I'm going on a little adventure. The big question is, can I turn a super cheap office PC into a real gaming PC? Will this be the deal of the century, or a very expensive life lesson? If you're skeptical, don't go anywhere. Stick around and watch the whole video to find out. Recently, I've been spending a lot of time scrolling through eBay and Facebook Marketplace. All you need to search are keywords like SFFPC, old PC, or even broken PC if you're feeling brave. And trust me, there are tons of results. Some PCs go for a few dozen bucks, some even just a few dollars. The important thing is you need to do a bit of research, message the seller, ask some questions, or sometimes there's basically no useful information at all, and you're just gambling on pure luck. After spending a few hours scrolling through eBay, I came across this Acer Veriton for just $54. The seller listed it as for parts or not working, and they didn't accept returns, so yeah, pretty risky. After thinking about it for a bit, I decided to take the gamble. Did I just find a hidden gem, or did I just buy electronic trash? 5 days later, the package finally arrived. It was actually packed surprisingly well. The outside looks pretty decent, a little dusty, the front drive is missing, but there's no major damage. I plugged it in, pressed the power button, and nothing. Completely dead. No display, no keyboard, no signs of life, so I opened it up and immediately found a big problem. This Acer system uses a proprietary 12-pin power connector, but somehow there's a Dell power supply with a 24-pin connector inside. I honestly have no idea what this machine has been through. Inside we have a B85 motherboard, 8GB of DDR3 RAM, and an Intel Core i5-4460S, the low power version usually found in office PCs. And of course, there's no hard drive, but hey, for $54, I really can't complain. Overall, the components inside actually look pretty clean. No signs of physical damage or burnt components, but looks don't really tell you much. First, I needed to check the power supply. Using a simple paperclip test, I shorted pin 4 and pin 5, and the PSU fan started spinning, which means the power supply is still alive. That was a really good sign and gave me a bit more hope for this machine. Next, I used a 24-pin to 12-pin adapter, plugged everything in properly, and tried to power it on. The fan was spinning, but still no signal. Nothing at all. So I started checking things one by one, and the first suspect was the CPU. I used the most basic method. I touched it, and it was completely cold. That's when I knew something was wrong. I removed the CPU, checked the socket, and thankfully all the pins were fine. At this point, the main suspect was the Intel Core i5-4460S. The CPU was dead, so I installed another CPU I had, an Intel Pentium G 3240, just to test. I turned the power on, and oh my god, we have a display. It works. At that moment, I felt incredibly lucky, and now I can say that spending $54 on this machine was definitely not a waste. Now comes the fun part, the upgrade. I'm going to turn this old Acer into a proper gaming machine, using the best value for money parts I can find. First, the CPU. This system runs on a B85 motherboard, which means we're limited to Intel 4th generation. But there's no way I'm relying on integrated graphics for gaming. Since it has a PCIe slot, we can go with a dedicated GPU, so I chose the Intel Xeon E3 1241 V3. Performance-wise, it's basically an i7-4790, but much cheaper because it has no iGPU. I picked it up for just $12. Absolute steal. Next, RAM. There's no way I'm gaming on a single 8GB stick. Dual channel is a must. So I added another 8GB DDR3, bringing the total to 16GB, all for just $12 more. Now, the most important upgrade, the GPU. We've got a problem. This system only supports low-profile single-slot GPUs, and the space is extremely tight. That rules out most gaming cards right away, but after digging around, I found a perfect fit, the NVIDIA Quadro K1208. It's a compact workstation GPU with a single slot design, 4GB GDDR, 5 VRAM, and 512 CUDA cores. Performance-wise, it sits somewhere between a GT1030 and GTX 750 Ti. Not amazing, but definitely usable. Even better, it only consumes around 45 watts, which makes it ideal for this kind of system. And the price? Just $30. Next is storage. To keep costs low, I went with a King Spec 240GB SATA SSD. It's enough for Windows and a few games. Nothing fancy, just practical. I got it for $16. Now it's time to put everything together. Here's the final setup. Intel Xeon E3 1241. 316GB DDR3 dual channel. The NVIDIA Quadro K1208. 240GB SSD. Everything fits perfectly, and the total cost? $139. The upgrade is complete. Now comes the moment I've been waiting for. How well can this $139 gaming PC actually perform? First, let's do a quick system check. Using CPU-Z, all components are correctly detected. Xeon E312, 41, 3, 16GB dual-channel RAM, and the NVIDIA Quadro K1200. Everything looks good and ready. Running the benchmark, the CPU scores 356 in single-core and 1,768 in multi-core. Very respectable for a processor that's over a decade old. Next, I move to Unigine Heaven benchmark. The Quadro K1200 completes the test with a score of 924 and an average of around 36 FPS. Not amazing, but still decent for such a compact, low-power GPU. Alright, everything is up and running. To keep things consistent and easy to compare, I'll be testing all games at 1080p on this setup. Let's start with Minecraft. At 8 chunks, performance is incredibly smooth, FPS stays above 300, and honestly, there's nothing to complain about here. Pushing it further to 32 chunks, the system still handles it with ease. FPS remains over 200 while both CPU and GPU sit at moderate usage. No signs of stress at all. Now let's turn on shaders. Still at 8 chunks, this is where things hit the limit. The NVIDIA Quadro K1200 is now running at 100% load, and FPS drops to around 10. And yeah, that's expected. At the end of the day, this is still a $30 GPU. We can't really ask for more than that. Next up, we have Counter-Strike 2. At low settings, the system performs quite well. FPS stays above 60, and in fast-paced gunfights, it can even reach around 90 frames per second. Switching to medium, the game is still very playable. FPS holds around 60 most of the time, with occasional drops to 40 in more complex scenes. Overall, this setup handles CS2 just fine. Moving on to Tomb Raider. At high settings, the GPU runs at full load, but temperatures stay under 70 degrees Celsius. FPS is above 60, with slight dips to around 50 during intense combat. Honestly, the performance of this $30 GPU is surprisingly good here. And finally, the ultimate test, Cyberpunk 2077. At low settings, the GPU is maxed out at 100% usage. FPS sits around 20, which technically makes it playable, but not exactly enjoyable. Expect noticeable input lag and a rough experience. Still, for a super budget system, this is about as much as we can realistically expect. So after everything, I'm genuinely impressed with this $139 build. It all started with a broken $54 Office PC, something most people would probably call trash, not even worth fixing. But this right here is a perfect example of budget done right. From scrap to a fully functional gaming system capable of running real games at 1080p. That's kinda crazy when you think about it. It's cheap, it works, and most importantly, it's a steal. Because sometimes the best builds aren't the most expensive ones. They're the ones where you find insane deals and squeeze every bit of performance out of them. So, would you take the risk and try something like this? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.